Hey.
Hello, welcome.
How's it going, Tom?
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Good.
Doing great.
Thanks for coming.
Doing great.
Stuart, hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it
Good,
going?
how you doing?
Gentlemen.
I like the ears.
Thanks. How we doing, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you.
Pretty good.
Awesome. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Unless you guys have any questions, we could hop right into it.
No, is there? Do you do a video version of this, or is it audio only?
It's mostly audio. If we have something that's a good clip, I'll probably make something of it. If you're okay with that.
Yeah, it's fine. I just like to know, so I don't make too many stupid faces.
Make all the stupid faces.
Make all.
What are you drinking there? Are you drinking whiskey?
Oh yeah, I wish. No, this is just all day IPA.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
That'll keep you sober.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, we welcome any sort of inebriation you desire on Comics and Chronic. So.
Yeah, I guess that's your rep, isn't it? That's your brand.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we like to party and we like comic books.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Comics and Chronic. Anthony here with Cody and Jake as usual. Today we have two very special guests in the house. From Ahoy Comics, we have the editor-in-chief, Tom Peyer, and the ops guy, the mysterious title, Stuart Moore.
Ops.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thank
We're
you.
glad to
Thanks
have
for
you
having
guys.
us.
Yeah, nice
Thank
to be
you for
here.
coming on. What is this mysterious title, Ops?
I just thought it made it sound like I was walking away from a flaming car.
Stuart's like Deep Space Nine bullshit.
Just this week, Tom promoted another staff member to Fixer, which I think makes me sound a little less tough all of a sudden.
Yeah. Fixer, wow.
Yeah, Fixer sounds very like mafia-esque.
Yeah, well, she's our lawyer. She's our
We're lawyers.
There you go.
Seem like proper respect to color the fixer in the masthead.
I gotta say, everything new I learn about Ahoy Comics, I just love. I mean, so you guys, I guess, came on the scene 5 years ago, right? Is that when The Wrong Earth, your comic, Tom, was first published?
Yeah, it came out like 5 years last September, and we actually started working on the company like January of 2017. So it took like between then and September of 2018 to put anything out. It's a lot of work.
Oh, I can only imagine.
But I feel like everything you guys put out is so unique. Like, it's funny, it's unique. The art always looks really good. It's smart. I really do love Ahoy Comics. I have a whole stack over here if you could see. You guys
Thank
have
you
definitely
very
made me a
much.
fan.
Those are exactly the things we go for. You listed.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's just the truth. Like, when I pick up an Ahoy comic, I'm gonna find all of those things, or most of those things are gonna, check the box for me. So,
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
We're very excited to cover the next volume of
Justice Warriors.
Yeah, Justice Warriors.
Justice,
God,
yeah.
so fun. Those guys were a great interview as well, and the comic was such a blast. I'm definitely looking forward to the next volume.
You're really going to like it. It's election themed, so we're not going to do monthly issues because we don't want to bring the whole graphic novel out way after the election. So we're going to put it out there in September.
Nice.
And it's better than the first one. It's a wonderful story with beautiful art.
It's called Vote Harder.
Vote harder.
Yeah.
Justice
Vote
Warriors,
harder.
Vote harder.
Nice.
It's about the
Not
election.
harder, not better, not earlier. Just
No,
harder.
that's right. Vote harder. It's a satire of every rotten thing about any election you've ever lived through. And,
Nice.
it's funnier than the first one even.
I mean, the first one was hilarious. The art was phenomenal.
Art is incredible.
It was really
Yeah.
cool talking to Matt Bors and Ben Clarkson because they just seem like really cool guys. Like, so down to earth and so smart. Like that comic has Easter eggs within Easter eggs, and you could get so much out of it. So that's what makes me really excited for the next volume.
They work really hard, especially Ben, who has to do these speed freak renderings of everything all the time, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, Matt's been great to work with too. He's he's the former he used to run a magazine called The Nib, which he still keeps around in some form. And he just knows the ins and outs of publishing and everything. You can tell he knows the ins and outs of the business world from all the satire and justice world. Like he's just a really smart guy. I like working with him.
Really, and one of my favorite political cartoonists, and which I was sorry when he stopped doing it, but then I still see new ones once in a while. So maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
I got to show you guys something because.
Uh-oh.
No, so when me and Jake were at LA Comic-Con, we saw Matt there, and he did this really cool Comics and Chronic sketch for us.
Right.
So cool.
What does it say? I can't see it.
Oh, it says, yet you smoke chronic, curious.
It's hilarious.
So cool. And so he's also doing the Toxic Avenger, which is incredible. I love that movie.
And like what a perfect fit.
Really incredible. Really incredible. And that was all Matt's idea. He went to Troma, the movie company that owns Toxic Avenger, and he went to us and he sort of put us together. And because he just always wanted to do this his whole life. When he was little, he was a fan of the Toxic Crusaders Saturday morning cartoon. I still can't believe there was a Saturday morning cartoon. But
same. It's so crazy. And then like the Toxic Avenger, just Troma in general, was a big part of my childhood. And I think his it's just such a perfect fit.
Yep, it really.
He's also updated it a bit. Like he's really trying to make it relevant to today's political environment while still keeping all the gross outs and the crazy toxic humor, toxic ways.
They're remaking it into a movie, right? With Peter Dinklage.
There is a new movie. It's got Peter Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger. I don't know if there's a release date. But I think
I'm not sure they have a distributor on it.
Not sure they have a distributor either. But he's done just a total reboot. It still has the spirit of Toxie, but it's her own story. And Fred Harper drawing it is like amazing.
That's
nice.
awesome.
What else is? I'm not familiar with Fred. What else is he?
Well, for us, he drew Snelson, which was Paul Constant's story about a stand-up comic, which I totally recommend to everybody in the world.
I need to check it.
I do have that. I haven't read it yet, but I do have that. Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, that was one of our completely under the radar books, and I think you guys would like it. It's probably the most extreme book we've published in content, I think.
Nice.
But it's just really funny, and it's about this '90s stand-up comic trying to make a comeback, and just offending everybody, just everybody, including his tour mates and everything.
But the heartbreak is he's just not edgy anymore.
He
thinks he is, and he's not.
I'm sold.
It's a great series with a lot of cool politics in it and stuff. And Fred did this. I mean, looking at that, I could see he was perfect for Toxie because there's like this really controlled, beautiful, classical drawing and his stuff. And then you turn the page and it just goes nuts with like surrealism and grotesquerie and bizarreness.
Fred did a book with me last year called Highball, which is about a space pilot who can only hit the target when he's dead drunk. And and Fred and I he lives in Brooklyn near me, so we started getting together a lot. We just hung out a lot. It was nice.
Nice. So Stuart, I know. So you have Highball. You've also done a series called Captain Ginger. So you write a lot of comics for Ahoy as well.
Yeah, I've had a few series. Captain Ginger is my series about cats in space, and that's been a lot of fun. I created that specifically to work with June Brigman, again, the artist who I had worked with before, and I just knew she loved cats. And she's best known for Power Pack at Marvel.
Oh wow.
But that's been a lot of fun. We just did for the 5th anniversary of Ahoy, we did a few little 2-issue, 2-issue series last fall, and we did a couple more Captain Gingers, couple Wrong Earths too, and of course the classic one-shot Acid Chimp versus Business Dog. They say it speaks, but it probably doesn't. I don't know. It probably needs to be explained, but leave it. It's just
An explanation, but you don't want to hear it.
I mean, honestly, I do know what it's about. So we've had Mark Russell on.
Okay.
Love that guy. Like Mark Russell. Okay, so Second Coming. We talked about Second Coming and Serial, both from Ahoy. Second Coming was like the first Ahoy comics that got on my radar. It was how I found you guys. And I'm so glad Mark Russell writes so many comics for you guys, because I'll buy anything Mark Russell writes at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of his work.
He's terrific.
Yeah, we love Serial. That was one of my favorite books that I read last year.
Yeah.
Serial was great, and then his Flintstones was so funny.
Oh, the
Flintstones. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's what really put him on the map. Like, that was just wonderful stuff.
Yeah. Oh, also Snagglepuss. That's one we talked about too.
Snagglepuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like one of our favorites of recent years.
There was a when I was at New York Comic Con, maybe it must have been right before the pandemic, like 2018 or 2019. There was a theatrical troupe that had done an adaptation of it, and we went to it with Mark and Marie Chavins and a bunch of people.
What?
They did an abbreviated version after hours at New York.
what?
It was wild.
Nice.
It was like a table read.
That's so cool.
That sounds amazing.
Mark has this way of really thinking deeply about things and then writing them down in a way that it goes down so easy. I wish I could do that, and I wish more people could do that. It's
No, I agree. He's a special writer for sure. But I mean, I'll talk about The Wrong Earth too in that way too, because so I picked up the books preparing for this interview, and I immediately love this universe. Dragonflyman, and these are, I would say, these books go down very easy. Like I'm immediately waiting for the next adventure. Like it's there's so much going on, but like I feel like no matter what volume you pick up, you're not going to be lost, including this new one, Dead Ringers, because you always give a little bit of an explanation, and it's totally like apparent. Okay, one guy's from this universe, one guy's from this universe. Shenanigans ensue, and I feel like it's just a great idea. I'm surprised no one did it before you thought of it.
Thank you. I'm so grateful no one did it before I thought of it.
Yeah, I think you were sweating that a little bit, weren't you?
I thought of it when I thought of it, and then I was really too clueless to think about, somebody else working on it. But they weren't. I got to do it. So yeah, it's like the two characters represent like the first probably half of the history of superhero comics before, when the Comics Code was in force, and the second half where we're sticking it to the man with our adamantium claws. It's great to see that. For me, it's just fun to put those two worlds together.
I remember you told me something about what you wanted in Ahoy, Tom, which was that the I don't know if you put it exactly this way, but like the concept should be pretty upfront, like pretty easy to grasp, and that's just the perfect one. Like it's so kind of obvious, but it's never been done before, and it's very easy to explain. Like Second Coming is like that too, Mark's book, obviously. Yeah. And so is the book we have coming up, Babs, by Garth Ennis and Jason.
Oh,
absolutely,
nice.
Absolutely. That's a sword and sorcery satire with a lot of dumb, slightly dirty gags and some real political thought in there.
Nice.
It's laugh out loud funny, unlike every.
Did Garth Ennis approach you guys, or did you guys approach him? He approached you guys.
Yeah,
we've known him forever, both of us.
Okay.
Like I was his editor on Hellblazer and Preacher back in the day.
Gotcha.
Amazing.
And that was Tom and I were both editors in the early days of the Vertigo imprint at DC. And Garth he lives in New York. I hang out with him. Like he's just a lovely guy to work with.
He's a lovely guy, period. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He did the screenplay adaptation of Sam Tallent's Running the Light that's getting optioned as a movie. Am I correct?
I'm not aware of that. He hasn't mentioned it.
You're right. But we have Jason Burrows art on it too, which is wonderful. The storytelling is just impeccable. But it's probably okay for me to say that it will remind you of Red Sonja, but you will be laughing all the time.
Ooh,
Nice.
Yeah, she's always complaining about her chainmail armor itching. Like
Right.
But there's a political humor in it of the most the most like hit you over the head kind of funny sort of kind. It's a really fun book.
And one of the captions, introductory captions, Garth describes her as fair of face and shit of luck. I love it.
When does Babs drop?
August. August 14th.
Nice. And you guys are, is Babs going to be a monthly, or is it going to be just dropping the book?
Oh, it'll be a monthly, we'll do a monthly series and collect it. And then I hope Garth wants to do another one after that.
I think it's 6 to start, right? 6 issues.
That's 6 to start.
Nice.
So I guess I have a question publishing wise. So Ahoy it seems like they do things a little differently. So you guys will Wrong Earth, for instance, it's not like Wrong Earth 1 to 25 or something like that. Like each series kind of is separated, stands on its own. And so why do you do things that way, I guess?
Well, part of it was to give people time to do their work. And to do other jobs, like Jamal, who so wonderfully draws the Wrong Earth. We don't want to just monopolize him, so he'll do 5 or 6 issues, then go do something else, and then we'll come back together. But it just really worked for us to have time to just like every 6 or so issues, you start with a clean slate on the schedule.
Yeah, creatively it's great. Commercially, it has its challenges. Like sometimes you risk losing momentum on a book. You risk people, and it's a little trickier for store owners too, because they're used to ordering based on the previous issue.
Wow.
But at the same time, in a way, sometimes it keeps orders from dropping too low, which people can just start taking a book for granted one way or another.
I hate to say it, but we get more number ones too.
Yeah, we get more.
Nice.
But we're experimenting a bit. We extended the anthology project Cryptid. That was originally supposed to be 6 issues. We took it out to wound up being 11. Yeah. I think it was going to be 12, but Sarah Litt, who edited it, put the whole thing together, did a beautiful job. Yeah. She just slacked me one day and said, "I don't think I have anything for issue 12." And I said, "Well, we can skip a month or you can end it early." And she said, "Let's just end it early." so we did.
I ended up writing Wrong Earth really differently because of that approach. Because it seemed like if we were doing it every month and we were on like issue 30 now or something, it would have been like the same story taken to whatever conclusion or whatever direction it was suggesting. But with these different series, I've been giving it kind of a new status quo every 6 issues, which is pretty standard for these days, actually. But I think it's made for a livelier story.
Nice. So you're saying you're approaching each one as more like a graphic novel, like with its.
Yeah, really. It's like we've done. I love what we did in the last volume, but we've done it, so let's do something different.
It probably gives you a little time in between to just rethink too, and
it does. And I put time gaps in there in case they ever want to go back and like expand the time when they were trapped on each other's earths. And but I never feel like doing that because it's like going backwards.
No, it's cool. I mean, that it makes the comic really unique, and just the fact that you created a little multiverse of your own. Like even Stuart, you had that one shot where he basically fights Prince. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, I mean, I love Prince, but
I love Prince.
But basically, we were going to do all these one shots, and I started thinking about how it worked, and I think everybody did, like half the comics industry did this at one time or another. But I had talked to DC about doing Batman '89 after and they finally did it.
Yeah,
finally did a short run. But when Batman '66 was going. Because I love that stuff and I love that period, so I had some notes about that, and I thought like I could do something with this. And then I realized that sort of the way Tom had it set up with Earth Alpha being this world that's sort of stuck in the campier, goofier era of the '60s, or version of the '60s, what we think of as the '60s, versus the more modern day stuff. This was something that fit almost halfway in between, like right in between. Yeah. And that was kind of interesting. And I liked playing with the Richard Fame character, the alter ego of Dragonfly, as a rich industrialist during that Wall Street era where guys like that were just king of the world, masters of the universe. They called themselves, so that was that. It all wound up fitting into that in a way. In a way, I was happy with. That was the first time I worked with Fred Harper, who actually
Fred too.
too, and he did a beautiful job on that.
Yeah, the art in that one shot is beautiful.
I told him that we had a whole psychedelic sequence where Dragonfly's drugs, and he just went mad. He was coloring it himself. It just went all pink and purple. It was great. Really fun.
No, I love that. I love that sequence, and especially you see Dragonflyman and Dragonfly on his shoulders. You could bring that in. That was so cool.
Yeah, that came to me in the middle of it. I realized it was a fun way to get into familiar versions of the characters, but it also it made sense, and it was just fun. It was just fun to do.
Yeah, and I want to stress this to anyone who listening who hasn't read The Wrong Earth yet. Like, the characters are going to feel familiar right away because Dragonflyman does feel like Batman in the 60s, and then we have Dragonfly who feels like Batman, the most edgelord version of Batman you could think of, and the way you make that work together where they're interacting and not even like the obvious ways, they're just way deeper than those, ways I just described them. I think that's what makes this like one of the most unique comics on the stands right now. Like, I'm glad it's you're keeping it going for real.
Thank you very much. I love working on that, and I love working with Jamal. He brings so much to it.
I'm glad you described it that way in terms of Batman, because if we did, then the Fixer would come after us.
My reply to that is absolutely 100% true, which is that we think of the 60s Batman, we think of all that corniness, but every damn superhero was like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what was the comic or character that got you guys into comics as far as being a fan goes?
Oh, here's a question. I was Superman. When I was little, they were rerunning the 1950s Superman show on TV every day, and he would come on, and for me it was like looking at Jesus. I mean, who is this? So I got into the comics, and they were different, but they were great, and they were just perfect for 6-year-old me. And so that really pulled me in.
Nice.
I think it was probably some combination of Batman and the Legion for me. I was really into both of those as a kid, and I started reading some of the stuff, not to date myself, but I really seriously started reading comic books like in the 70s, and a lot of that stuff was being revamped one way or another. They were really making Batman darker, and even the Legion. That was when you had artists like Dave Cockrum and Mike Grell on it, who frankly made that book a lot sexier than it had been before. It had really been it had some nice art before that, but and some good stories, but it had been pretty old line. It would fit on Earth Alpha, let's put it that way. And the stuff from the 70s would not. Like, suddenly they were all wearing like cutout bathing suit costumes and shit, and I liked it. I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah, the 60s Legion was like modest as like really extreme Christians.
Whoa, really?
Flash was covered up.
Except Dream Girl, she kind of wore a swimsuit back then.
Right, that's true. I don't know why they let her into the Legion.
No, but that's kind of interesting because, okay, so you both said, so I guess pardon my ignorance because so you both were editors for Vertigo in the early days, like you said. So it's interesting that so Vertigo is the imprint I think of when we're talking about it's the 90s and comics are changing and, we're getting deeper characters, deeper stories, but your influences are those, that wasn't like Golden Age or Silver Age, but more just like a completely different vibe. And so I guess how do you go from that to Vertigo and then from Vertigo to Ahoy?
Well, I'll say that something like Watchmen, which like upends the assumptions you bring to comics, has a lot more impact if you're familiar with the comics it's upending, and if that's your world. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Everything grew up, and I wasn't. There was nothing like Vertigo when I was 6, and I wouldn't have read it anyway.
Yeah, but you and I were both like Tom. You and I were both also influenced by a lot of other stuff than comics. Like we
absolutely.
And I mean, I think we were both into various kinds of experimental fiction one way or another. I know you're a William Burroughs fan. I've read a lot of Robert Anton Wilson. I think I've got a lot of his books.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that we brought a lot of other. I think we brought a lot of other influences into the field when we got into it, as a lot of the writers we were working with in the '90s did, like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore and Garth, obviously Warren Ellis, people like that.
Yeah, and also even in comics, when I was a teenager, I was way into underground comics, and I was a teenager at the absolute right time for R. Crumb and S. Clay Wilson and all those people, and Gilbert Shelton. So, and I always just loved from early on. I just loved comics as comics. They didn't have to be Marvels or DCs or superhero. They just had to be comics.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite comics when I was a kid was Beavis and Butthead comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I bet you dug those. Looking in the mirror, wasn't it?
Nice. Get him, Tom.
That's hilarious.
I think that was Game recognizing Game.
Yeah, for sure. So now, you have all of these comics coming with Ahoy. Do you have any bigger plans for any of these series that are already established, like Wrong Earth or Justice Warriors, or are you just wanting to put out quality indie comics and kind of that's just all that matters to you?
Well, both Babs and Toxie feel like opportunities to maybe expand the amount of attention we get and the amount of interest we get, and bring new readers into the line. I mean, Toxie particularly, because we've never brought a character to market that anyone's ever heard of before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of exciting to be able to do that. And I have a lot of hopes for how it might turn out.
If you're talking about film rights and things like that, we've had nibbles, we've had things happen. One of the early books at Ahoy, Planet of the Nerds, was by Paul Constant and Alan Robinson, was optioned by Paramount for pretty good advance, actually, but it wound up lapsing as these things do. That was a fun book. It was just about three jocks from the 1980s, I think, who fall into suspended animation and wake up in the modern day and can't believe that nerds have taken over the world. They're just wonderful.
Nice.
I might have some movie life again. There's a script that someone's been talking to.
But I feel like those, and every story, every comic we've been talking about, I feel like other publishers just don't publish this kind of material, which just, again, sets Ahoy apart. You guys are putting, okay, even the fact that you include prose, and I know, Stuart, you have a lot of prose in a lot of Ahoy comics. That's incredible. That's just cool. It feels more akin to a different time period in comics when that was actually included in certain things. And I feel like it just, I don't know. It's just so cool. I just like that it was included. I wouldn't even think to ask for it, I guess, but the fact that it's included in your comics is such a cool bonus.
I'm glad.
That was your idea, Tom, wasn't it, originally?
It was. I was looking at, when we were starting, I was looking at old comics, and I got a couple things out of it. One was putting the cover art without trade dress on the back cover was something that this company Gold Key used to do in the 60s, and I always thought that was great. You just admire the artwork.
That's cool.
Nice.
But the other one was these short stories, before letter pages, before they thought to do letter pages, they always had to put pages of text in the comic, or else they wouldn't get cheap mailing permits. That was a legal requirement. A magazine had to have prose in it. So they would hire writers as cheaply as possible to write stories as fast as possible. And I've seen 1,000 of them, and I don't think I ever finished reading one of them. So the idea behind these stories is what if these were good? But another idea is, comics aren't cheap, and sometimes the stories go by faster than they used to because it's more visual than it used to be. And so it just feels better if you can spend a little time with the book you bought, I think.
Nice.
I like that.
I will say creatively, they're wonderful to work on because they can be anything. They can be about anything, as long as they have a little bit of humor in them somewhere.
Exactly.
I mean, I've written ones I wrote one that was just a I'd been traveling nonstop for a month, and I just had all these like conductors' voices in my heads and everything, and I just pretty much transcribed them and made it a science fiction story. But I've written other ones that are self-mocking, self-parody almost. Like I've written it's just fun every once in a while to just sit down, and it's like a palate cleanser. I write Marvel novels too, so
oh great.
So this is like clearing my throat in between them almost. Like, really having fun and not having to worry about the strictures, the rules.
So okay, so that's really interesting then, because I've not read, like, I know Marvel does put out a lot of prose novels, even DC. What's your approach to that kind of story versus a comic? I mean, obviously a comic is a visual medium, but you're still telling, I'm assuming, some sort of adaptation of, is it like something you're creating, like a new story for a character, or is it an adaptation of older stories?
I've done both.
Okay.
I wrote adaptations of the Dark Phoenix saga and of Civil War, among others. But the original ones, those are fun, and they're kind of a challenge. And sometimes you can do things like it's much easier to write a story the second time, frankly. Like you can see what, especially comics that were being written on a monthly basis, like you're under the gun, you're on deadlines, and like stuff doesn't always connect. And I'm talking about the best writers in the industry that happens,
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you go over it again, like I can get into something like the Dark Phoenix saga, which is genius, brilliant series, and say, well, what they did with the Hellfire Club here, that doesn't connect with what happened next issue. Like I can, in that case, I could really what I really tried to do in that one actually was give Jean Grey herself a little more depth, because she was always sort of the perfect girlfriend more than anything else until she's tempted by power. But the more recent ones I've been reading are original. Aconite Books had me do a series. I wrote 2 of them, and the middle one was written by a woman named Carrie Harris. And those were technically based on the Marvel Crisis Protocol tabletop miniature game.
Okay.
But really all that meant was I got to use all the big characters. So it's like in the first one's called Target Kree, and a group of Kree citizens whose planet has been destroyed come to Earth on a sort of a work visa to work for Tony Stark, and they find like terrible working conditions. So the Guardians of the Galaxy come to Earth trying to figure out what's going on and get into a big clash with the Avengers, and that ends with a mystery villain being revealed, who's then that whole story unfolds in the last book, Into the Dark Dimension. So those had a lot of characters. We were really trying to write the equivalent of a Thanos level movie, and it almost killed me, but it was a lot of fun. I'm very proud of this.
That sounds awesome.
Stuart, I have a suggestion for the title of your next Marvel novel.
What?
You ready? When Titans Clash.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
I can see that you're not writing it down.
It's all up here. It's all up here.
So is it a rule at Ahoy Comics that every comic needs comedy in it?
Yeah, it seems like
Humor. Or just on some level. They don't have to be comedies, but they have to have humor on some level. They can't entirely serious.
Can't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, and a lot of the writers Ahoy works with, like, I mean, Mark Russell, just everything he does has that.
Yeah.
Matt Boers.
Even the Vertigo books we used to work on were fun. At Stuart, we were talking just earlier today, and Stuart pointed out that they were so much funnier than people remember.
Yeah, people think of them as these grim, dark books, and they were in some ways, but I mean, books like Hellblazer
Hellblazer was so funny.
Yeah,
it was so funny. Like, and even Shade the Changing Man when Peter Milligan was writing it, stuff like that. Preacher really is a comedy. It's really structured like a comedy.
Anything Grant touched was funny.
Yeah, Grant Morrison. Yep,
For sure.
So we were talking about how when in the early days of Ahoy, we were kind of pitching it to creators as funny Vertigo.
Nice. That's awesome.
Well, why is humor so important to you? I mean, I love it, but like, why?
Because
it seems, yeah. Sorry.
Just because it's entertaining, and it's kind of an antidote to so much pop culture that just takes itself really incredibly seriously in a way that it didn't used to, I think. or maybe I'm just being old.
No, you're right.
Tom, you said something else recently that really summed it up, which was the world seems really dark. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember how you put it, but it was something like,
Right, like the world's not getting any happier, so let's at least
Laugh about, yeah.
it's true.
No, I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, because a lot of your books that I've read, they're all hilarious, but they deal with some really real shit, especially like Cereal, which is, on the surface, like, this makes fun of the mascots of the cereal brands, but there's like tragic loss and love and sacrifice, and it's cool to see.
I once told Mark Russell, who wrote that, it just felt like on some level, it felt like a really great Hammer film.
Yes.
He told me he had never seen a Hammer film. Oops, it's a Hammer film. It's total.
No, and I like that you said that you feel like it's the antidote to things, because I feel like Justice Warriors is a real testament to that, as far as using humor to satirize what is, quite frankly, like a terrible political landscape out there. So
reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited to see.
And on one level, Justice Warriors is a pretty angry book in a way. It's got something very, very trenchant to say. But yeah, it's fun. It's dressed up in all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's got lots of violence. It's got lots of very cool art and clever character design, stuff like that.
I like to describe Justice Warriors as two creators pissing on America who live in Canada.
leaning over the border, right?
I like that. That's awesome.
No, I was just going to say, because you mentioned the Fixer before. Did your Fixer have a heart attack with cereal?
No. Stuart introduced me to a phrase about this kind of book, about filing the serial numbers off. That's.
You were already doing it, but yeah.
I was doing it, but you were the one who brought the figure of speech to me.
When I say that, when you have an idea that might have been originally intended for, let's say, Batman, but
don't know who
yourself, and you just make it different enough that it's that you're clear.
But anyway, yeah, we're always careful about that stuff. I don't know if there was anything in Serial that we had to show the Fixer, because vampires and that's all public stuff.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, and also, I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a lawyer, but but there's something about, if you use parody elements once or not too many times, you can get away with something more than if something's an ongoing work. So that kind of helped. And Serial is full of, he's always throwing in different characters, and some of the closer ones, actually, some of the ones that might have been dicier are just a panel here or there. Like the frog digging the graves. I love the frog digging.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was most worried about the Captain Crunch figure.
Yeah.
We tried to we had trouble figuring out one of them. Wasn't it like a dog?
Yeah, we didn't know it was, because we didn't know there were so many other Boo Berry, Frankenberry type cereal mascots. There's
one of our friends who's literally a cereal nerd.
Yeah,
he sent us pictures. He read the book based on a recommendation, and he sent us who these characters were referencing. And I was like, I never even heard of these people.
Yeah.
Good.
So it's cool. Yeah, you guys do really cool stuff at Ahoy.
Thanks.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that book we had serialized parts of in the Edgar Allan Poe Snifter of Terror anthologies, and then we sort of ended that. And I think Mark had another 3 stories to finish it off.
3 chapters, to go.
Yeah, and Peter Snyberg was just the perfect artist for it.
Incredible.
I worked with him back in the day at Vertigo, and he's this brilliant Danish artist who only does American comics once in a while now, because they have a government that supports the arts, and nice. He actually gets grants to just do his own stuff. But he likes to keep his hand in, and he liked the stories. He liked working with Mark, I think.
Yeah, we just spoke to a writer, Zach Thompson. He lives in Canada, and he was telling us the same thing. My mind was blown.
To make a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, the Canadian film industry, that's crazy.
Right.
You have to, and you have to have, I think you have to have 51% Canadian staffing to make it work. And that was on like the old SCTV show. They used to make fun of that with the Bob and Kenzie skits, the two hosers. And that was to fulfill their Canadian content that they had to have on the show. It's idiots like frying up back bacon and trying to figure out what to talk about.
Worst stereotypes of Canadians.
Their own country.
Is Babs? What can we like expect from Babs, or what's a word you would use to describe it? One adjective.
It's just so funny. It's action packed. I really like her. She's like really mercenary and really driven, but she never gets what she wants. And it's got some really good stuff about some like white nationalist allegories and incel allegories. The worst people show up as like demons. It's not demons, but orcs or something.
So did you say it's like a spy espionage, or
No, it's like Red Sonja.
Oh, Red Sonja. Sorry,
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sword and sorcery. Yeah.
It's sword and sorcery, and it's just really funny. She's got an enchanted sword who can talk, which really annoys her.
His name's Barry. Yeah,
His name's
Barry?
There's some there's some nice little touches. Like even in the first few pages, they're just like there's just a couple of horses who are just like having a drink at the trough outside the bar, and they're just talking to each other like, "Oh, mate, sorry, didn't see you there." Like, you know, they're not enchanted. I don't think they're just having a drink and they're talking to each other. There's stuff
awesome.
like that all the way through it.
Yeah, that's really nice.
That's awesome.
So the press stuff that I read before the interview talked a lot about Justice Warriors, Babs, Toxic, and the newest Wrong Earth series. Is there anything like beyond that Ahoy has like big plans for, or are you guys like the kind of company that just like works on what you're working on now and you'll think about future projects in the future?
Oh, we definitely have things we're working on beyond the things we've announced, and we're
Nice.
careful about when things get announced because it's the way to make attention for something if you announce it to everyone at once.
Yeah.
But we're working well into 2025.
Nice.
I think I could hint that there'll be more Justice Warriors in some form.
Stuart,
Hey, we love to hear that, man. It was
Yeah,
such
we love
a good
those guys.
It's the Fixer versus Ops.
Tom, you got to get a cool nickname.
Tom, yeah, Tom's the chief.
I'm a chief.
That's true. You are literally.
Lawyer's the fixer.
Yeah.
No, we do try to plan ahead. And actually, just this week, Tom and Hart Seeley, our publisher, who's amazing. The three of us have just sort of been trying to do big scale planning, like trying to figure out what kind of books we should be looking for. Like Tom said, Toxic Avenger is our first licensed book. It's our first existing property. And we're trying to figure out whether to go after more of those, like just trying to keep the balance right. We do a certain number of books by Tom, certain number of books by Mark, certain number of books by Matt, and that actually fills up more of our schedule than you'd think.
Nice.
So it's the rest of it becomes like, what do we need? What do we want to do? What does Tom want to do? What does Sarah, who's very important to the whole thing, want to do? And Sarah came up with Project Cryptid herself and just sort of put all that together. And that's done nicely for us, actually. The trade paperback came out last week, and it's already out of stock at Simon & Schuster, which handles our book distribution. So,
yeah,
ramble around.
I mean,
but that's all good. That's a good thing.
That's
I
fantastic.
mean, cryptids now, that's like, I feel like I don't know what it is, but there's such a big market for it. I am based out of West Virginia. And so people are just like, we're like, that's all people talk about here. I'm tired of hearing about the Mothman. I don't want to hear about it anymore. But it's like, no, it's like a huge market. So like it's awesome that it did so well. And it's also like, it makes a ton of sense, at least to me.
That's really good to know. Thank you.
I wrote a story about, I grew up in New Jersey, and I wrote a story about the Jersey Devil,
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
which is really just like kind of a tribute to all the kids I went to high school with who I worked with at in the kitchen of this retirement home. And most of them, I don't know what happened to most of them, frankly. But
Yeah.
at that age, a lot of us just, you don't know what you're doing with your life, like, and you can make some wrong turns, especially in my story, if your boss is like a demon sent down from hell to conquer the earth, you could fall into the wrong, along the wrong path.
Cody, I was thanking you sincerely there, because we had talked about sort of pitching some issues toward localities, finding out the local comic store there. And,
yeah, I think that didn't work out because Darren Bennett and I both wrote stories about the Jersey Devil, and we were talking about putting them together, and I think the timing didn't work out with the art or something.
but no, we didn't want to attract any business from New Jersey, Stuart.
Well, why are we publishing the Toxic Avenger?
I've had two freelancers say to me when I offered them work on the Toxic Avenger, I've had two of them say to me, "I'm from New Jersey, of course."
That's so funny.
That's awesome.
That's one of my favorite gags from Futurama. There's an episode where Fry is trying to find an apartment. He finds every apartment sucks. He finds one really great apartment. He's like, "What's the catch?" He's like, "Well, technically we're in Jersey," and just immediately cuts to him like on the couch, like, "Oh, damn it, I couldn't find a place."
No, I've spent, I've lived in Brooklyn my whole adult life, but I spend a lot of my time defending Jersey. It's not all bad. It was a good place to grow up.
Nice. I'm in the Bronx. That's cool.
Right? Cool.
Yep.
Nice. All over. Well, thank you guys for coming on. That was really cool.
Yeah, seriously, so dope. I'm really excited to get to check out both Babs and more of. And I read the first volume leading up to this of Wrong Earth, and it was stellar too. So.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
I feel like we didn't really say too much about Dead Ringers. Is there anything you wanted to mention about that?
Oh.
Oh, it's ongoing now, and it'll be it's a big one. Something big is going to happen in it, and I'm not going to tell you. But I really like working on this one. I think Jamal's doing great work, and we're taking it in a bit of a different direction. So it's kind of refreshing. Another thing that's coming out that we didn't mention is My Bad.
My
Ooh.
bad.
Which is Mark Russell's book with Bryce Engman and Peter Krause, and that's coming out currently. And it is the broadest, funniest, smartest, and stupidest superhero parody we'll probably ever do.
Nice.
Yeah, this is volume 3. It's been running for a while, but it's you can just jump into it.
You can just jump in anywhere because none of it means anything.
Well, I did like that in the first issue of Dead Ringers, you introduced this guy called the Reader who basically says that he's like trying to explain the continuity and then he's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
His job is to read everything, and he has to read a lot of stuff he hates, and you'll hear about it from him.
I like the way what you did in Dead Ringers though too is all the characters wind up trapped on Earth Alpha, the sort of campy 1960s world, and that means they're kind of they kind of can't get away from each other, like, and that leads to a lot of nice character stuff as the book goes on.
Yeah, they were better off trapped on each other's worlds by themselves than having to mingle.
I can't wait to see where the series goes for sure. Tom, Stuart, seriously, thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Oh, thanks for having it. Great.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Seriously. Yeah, please come back anytime.
Yeah, anytime you guys have another, like if you want to once a year come back and announce a run of things you got going on, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. Check on that.
Excellent.
All right, looking forward to reading more Ahoy stuff. So keep making great comics, and we'll keep reading them.
We'll try.
I guess we can't quit now, Tom. I don't know.
There you go, your stuff.
There you go.
Hi, you're listening to Comics and Chronic, and I'm Jake F.H.
I'm Cody Cannon.
And I'm Anthony Iannaccio.
And you can tune in every Thursday to hear new episodes of Comics and Chronic.
And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter @Comics and Chronic. That's comics, the letter N, Chronic.
We'll see you guys next week.
Woo!
Peace.